I've got my first impressions of Julian Lewis, and what if USC's run defense is better than their own run offense?
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Hulkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC, part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day. Whether you're watching the show on YouTube, wherever you're getting your podcast, the show's always free. The show always appreciates your support. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as the playoffs have wound down. The sports aren't sporting like they want them to. College football is right around the corner, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all their customers with a booster bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel to get started. Part of my Friday rant last week, my everydayers, you heard this. I talked about Juju Lewis's reluctance to shut down his recruitment. Well, that was before I got the chance to watch the young man play his first game of the season. It was on ESPN2. He was going up against Rodney Harrison's son. Jerome Bettis' kid was on the opposite side of the field. And what I was able to see was Julian lead his Carrollton Trojan team to a win over the Woodyard Academy. They're also from Georgia, 24-14. It wasn't the greatest game to watch if you're looking for a lot of highlights. Weather was an issue in the second half. It rained pretty hard. So as far as Juju and putting up some gaudy stats, the rain played a role. That didn't really happen. On the night, he was 9 for 15 throwing the ball. Again, didn't throw that many passes, only 15 times the entire game. 126 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. And you look at the stats, say, all right, not bad, right? His first touchdown pass was a quick flanker, one of those quick flanker screens that went to the distance. He got the ball out there in a hurry. The wide receivers did their job blocking. The wide receiver ran it in the end zone. A lot of yak. Not a lot to Juju making it happen, so to speak. But that touchdown pass, it was his first touchdown pass of the season, and it came after he threw a really, really bad interception. He threw it into double coverage. Harrison's kid picked it off. Some people might say it was a predetermined throw. I disagree with that description. It was a bad read, period, because he had time. It's not like he, just dropped back through the ball. He actually had time to survey a little bit, and this is where he chose to throw. Now, his second touchdown was a beautiful, an exquisite dime over the middle of the field. His offensive line gave him all day, and the wide receiver eventually just broke free, hit a really nice post pattern, dropped the dime right over the defender, and it was, again, beautiful. Couldn't, on a rope. And then his third touchdown pass, it was a little bit of a trickeration play in the first half. You had Julian with the ball. He tossed it to one receiver, and it looked like the play was going one direction. That guy tossed it back to Julian, who went deep downfield. Guy is wide open. Touchdown. Boom. There's your 3 touchdown passes. Stats aside, you can definitely see some special things about Juju. Okay. You really notice it with his footwork. He doesn't panic in the pocket when pressure gets to him. He's really accurate. He had a couple throws that were off, but for the most part, a very accurate passer. He's going to put the ball where only his receiver can get to it. When you watch him play, you definitely can see some shades of Caleb Williams. You understand why Lincoln Riley has him at the top of his quarterback depth chart when it comes to recruiting. Now, with all that said, Julian had the chance to shut down all the speculation, right? You watch the show, I've kind of been on the young man saying, hey, shut it down. You've been committed to USC for a year, since August of 2023. but you're still leaving room. You're still leaving it out there that you could possibly do something different. It's not anything you said; it's the actions that he's taken. So during the game, it was early in the first quarter. ESPN did a little pregame recording with Julian, and I don't remember if it was Craig Howard or Tom Luganville. It doesn't matter. They asked Juju on camera before the game started about his status, where everything stands with recruiting. Quote, as of right now, I'm still locked in with USC. That's still where my home is. Taking visits is kind of a part of the process. And I was going to see what's going on everywhere else. But I'm still USC right now. End quote. So you heard it not once, twice with the right now, for now. I'm committed to USC. This is why Lincoln Riley is keeping the lines of communication open with guys out there like Husan Longstreet, who's currently committed to Texas A&M. Look, Juju had the chance with Colorado, with Indiana, with Auburn, those programs who are still in the mix, according to, the other media outlets out there. But those programs still out there watching the game, Juju had a chance to tell them, hey, yeah, you know what? This is all it would have taken. Pretend I'm Juju. This is what I would have said. Yeah, I've been committed for a year. And each day that commitment to USC, it's getting stronger because each day I'm closer to stepping on campus at USC. Just by making that comment alone or something similar to that, I think that makes USC fans say, all right, I see you. I get it. You're playing the game, but you're giving us a little bit more confidence. But he didn't do that. Instead, you get as of right now. For now, here's what I'm going to say. He didn't, those words, what he said during that, 45-second, 1-minute interview, that made more of an impression on me than what he did on the field in that game. He's talented, but he's starting to come across more like an NIL package than USC's leader of their recruiting class. That's my perception of it. I mean, if you're thinking about coming to USC, if you're another recruit and you're thinking, hey, I'm going to go to USC because that's where Juju's going. Did Juju's answers like totally bleed confidence? You're like, all right, he's in. I'm buying in. I don't think anybody got that message. His teammate at Carrollton also committed to USC, 3-star defensive back, Shamar Arnu. He's intending to join USC's class. He's committed. But neither one of them has actually officially shut down their recruitment. Guess what? Arnu is also being recruited by Auburn and Colorado. I like Shamar's game. Don't get me wrong. I'm not talking negatively about him. I'm not trying to talk negatively about Juju, but Juju's been committed for over a year. He's got a chance to shut this thing down multiple times. Shamar, I don't know if this is an NIL package deal. What's going on between these two? They say they both want to play at USC. So is Juju still negotiating? Hope not. Because I really like what Coach Mike Gundy, Oklahoma State's coach, said recently. By the way, week 0 games start this weekend. This is what Coach Gundy has. This is his thoughts on recruits, who are trying to negotiate deals with the season that's already upon everybody. When it comes to recruiting, Coach Gundy had this memo for the recruits. There's no negotiating now. The portal is over. All negotiations history. Now we're playing football. Just coaching and playing football. And the business side of what we do now is we have to have those conversations with them, referred to the recruits. So tell your agent to quit calling us and asking for more money. It's non-negotiable now. It'll start again in December. I really hope Coach Riley is taking that attitude, saying the same thing, because I want his undivided attention on LSU, on the team. There's going to be a time and a place for recruiting. But right now, not today, not tomorrow, not these next 2 weeks. Let me leave you with one perspective to consider. Because I know what I'm saying is coming across on the negative side. I'm just trying to give you the pragmatic look of it. However, would Carly Smith, would Shamar Arnu, would Jaden Perlotte, the linebacker that USC just flipped from Georgia? What about D. Reddick? Would the cornerback, defensive back that USC just flipped from Central Florida? Would they have committed to USC recently if Juju was considering flipping? Quick nugget for you here. Despite what Scott Schrader from We Are SC said, I'm going to feel a lot better when Juju actually shuts it down. You're saying, well, what did Scott say? Head on over. When you're done making this episode of Locked On USC, your first listen, when you're done listening to this episode, get on over to WeRC.com. If you haven't become a subscriber here yet, it's quick, it's easy, it's free. Click that YouTube button. Smash that thumbs up. But when you go over to WeRC.com, if you haven't become a subscriber yet, use code USC1. You'll get 2 months for $1, and you'll understand the good news. Go check it out. USC's first game is less than 2 weeks away. 13 days away, if we're being precise. So if you're a fan of the show The Family Guy, giggity. Yeah. Look, in the next segment, let's talk about this. Let's talk about USC's first game and what's going to have a bigger impact on USC winning that game. Will it be USC's run game or USC's run defense? Which one's going to make a bigger difference in that game? That's coming up next. You've heard us talk about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Just visit fanduel.com/locked-on to download America's #1 sportsbook. It's back. College Football Live is back, and the Locked On College Football Podcast kicks off the action with a live season preview at 7 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, August 20th on the Locked On College 24/7 streaming YouTube channel. This is a 4-part series. It's going to cover each of the 4 major conferences with discussion on which ACC, Big 10, Big 12, and SEC teams have a shot at the expanded playoffs. Be sure to check out the special streaming on Locked On College's 24/7 YouTube channel or on Amazon Fire TV, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, all off season. My everyday listeners, my everyday viewers, you've heard me say one thing over and over and over again, 3 times for emphasis. If Lincoln Riley wants to help out his new defense, he needs to run the ball more. Control the clock on offense. Keep your defense rested. So how ironic would it be if USC's run defense was actually good enough to stop LSU's run offense? This is going to be a real challenge for USC. I'm not saying it won't be. Don't forget, LSU's #1 rusher last year also happened to win the Heisman Trophy. He's gone. Pardon me. I think that's going to make USC's defense a little bit easier to adapt. You don't have to worry about Garrett Nussmeier taking off and running as much as you would Jaden Daniels taking off and running. He took off and ran for 1,000 yards last year. That's not who Garrett Nussmeier is, LSU's starting quarterback, projected starting quarterback. Everyone thinks USC's lack of size and depth in the trenches is going to be a big issue in this game. I've talked about how that's not as big of an issue as some might think it will be. Let me go over these numbers for you. This is LSU's projected starting offensive line. Left tackle, Will Campbell. All right, he's good. Left guard, Garrett Dellinger. Starting center, DJ Chester. Starting right guard, Miles Frazier. Right tackle, Emory Jones. Their bookends tackles are both anticipated to go to be in this year's draft. They're both juniors, but they both plan on being considered top of the draft board in the 2020-25 NFL draft. Here are their sizes. Campbell, 6'6", 323 pounds. Dellinger, 6'5", 322 pounds. Chester, 6'6", 322 pounds. Miles, 6'5", 325. Jones, 6'6", 315. Total that all up, 1,607 pounds. Their projected two deep is just like USC's. Second-year guys, freshmen. That's what's backing up your junior, your senior, your redshirt freshman at center, senior transfer at right guard, and junior right tackle. So if LSU's O-line is considered big and strong, how should everyone describe USC's offensive line? Follow along. You're going to understand where I'm going with this here really quickly. You have USC's offensive line, Elijah Page, 6'7", 320 pounds. Left guard, Emmanuel Prignon, 6'6", 320 pounds. Jonah Monheim at center, 6'5", 310 pounds. It's either going to be Alani Noah, 6'4", 335 pounds, or Amos Talalele, 6'4", 340 pounds. That's going to be your right guard. Maybe Gino Quinones, 6'3", 305 or 310. I don't remember off the top of my head. And then you got Mason Murphy at right tackle, 6'5", 320 pounds. So you total all that up, it's either going to be 1,605 pounds for USC, or if we go heavy with Amos Talalele, that's 1,610 pounds. All of a sudden, USC's starting offensive line is bigger and stronger, in theory, than LSU's. So where am I going with this? Well, USC's defensive line has to practice against somebody, right? Right. Here is USC's projected starting front four. You got Anthony Lucas at one defensive end, 6'5", 275. Bear Alexander inside, 6'3", 313. It could be Gavin Myers, 6'3", 290, or you got Nate Clifton, 6'4", 295. Jamil Muhammad at the other side of the line, 6'1", 270 pounds. Assuming that's your starting four, backing those guys up. I'm just going to rattle off names. Kobe Pepe, 6'2", 315. Jade Abasiri, 6'5", 290. Devin Tompkins, 6'5", 285. You got Solomon Tuliapupu, solo. He's pushing 270. You got a couple of other freshmen that are over 300 pounds. So can those guys hold up for 4 quarters? Or is LSU's offensive line going to wear down USC's defensive line throughout the course of the game? I told you what USC's D-line, what they're going up against every day in practice. Both teams, LSU and USC, they have a lot to prove on defense this season. Both sucked last year, and that's being kind. LSU's defense, they were ranked 110th. USC, 114. Yeah. There is no category below the suck category. That's where both teams were. So my question is this. Based on what USC's practicing against, is it possible that USC's run defense is going to be good? Because, look, USC's secondary is already being tested by USC's wide receivers. And what I mean by that is I don't think LSU has the kind of wide receiver talent that's going to surprise USC secondary in game one. They got a couple of good guys. They got talent. They don't got talent like USC's wide receiver room. Not even close. The concern for USC defensively, if you're a USC fan, is going to be if Brian Kelly decides to lean in on his tight ends. Got a couple of good ones. But again, will USC's run defense be up to the task? Because they've had the same amount of beef leaning on them this fall, during the spring. USC secondary is good. And I knew this before I saw Saturday's scrimmage. Oh, by the way, if that comment gets me in trouble, so be it. I didn't give anything away. The media was a late invitee to Saturday's scrimmage at the Coliseum. And we were told we can watch, we can take notes, but do not report on anything that we saw. We are under a really strict gag order. Did I learn a couple of things? Definitely. Absolutely. Am I going to talk about it today? Definitely not. Absolutely not. All right. So we know that USC is going to lean into their run game. They have to. They have to have a more balanced offense. But what's going to make a bigger difference in that game against LSU? Is it going to be USC being able to run the ball and keep their defense off the field? Or is USC's run defense already going to be up to the task? Because they've got the same amount of beef that LSU is planning to bring, leaning on them every day in practice. Tell you what, if the over-under for that game is 62.5, I'm thinking take the under. I don't think this is going to be quite the shootout. I think this game is going to be a little bit closer than the 6.5 that everyone thinks LSU is going to win by. I would take USC in the points, that's for sure. But like I said, keep an eye on the USC's defensive line, because if they show out well against LSU, USC is going to have a really good year on defense. That's all I can say. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home that winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. And eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to a peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into that MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions will apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Look, with USC, LSU, they're kicking off in 13 days. I got a question. We're into not quite the bell lap. We're going to call this mock game week. USC's got 2 of them. USC's fall camp has been pretty uneventful so far. The injury bug hasn't bitten for the most part, right? You know, I mentioned a couple of guys. Everybody is day to day. Coach Riley isn't concerned about anybody who's been missing the last few days of practice. There hasn't been any depth chart released yet. We have an idea of who's slotted to start, right? And I think we have a pretty good idea who the backups will be, but nothing from the staff. None of that's come out from them. Miller is the starter quarterback. Woody Marks is going to be the starter at running back. Your first 4 wide receiver lineup, I'll be shocked if it's not Zachariah Branch, Deuce Robinson, Makai Lemon, Jacoby Lane. I put it in that order: 1, 2, 6, and 8. But what happens if Lincoln Riley says, you know what, I'm going to shake things up? I'm going to use this next week to really shake things up, get everybody's attention. What happens if he decides, I'm going to go 3 wide? I'm not going to run 4 wide receivers out there. Who's standing next to Coach Riley on that first play, that first series? The offensive line, for the most part, they're set. But what if Coach Riley uses this week, mock game week? He says, you know what? The offensive line, we're going to leave you guys alone. But what if we switch things up? A quarterback. Let's keep the offensive line on their toes. What happens if Coach Riley says, all right, Miller, you're QB1 Monday, Jaden Mayava, you're QB1 Tuesday, Miller Wednesday, Mayava Thursday, wash, rinse, repeat. You get where I'm going with this. All of a sudden, does that put others on alert? Other position groups? Or is that just keeping the quarterback competition open? Is that a good way of shaking things up? Here's another one. I said Woody Marks is going to be your starter at running back. What if Brian Jackson is the best running back? I mean, does Woody accept playing the backup role this week in practice? Does that get his attention? Just like there's no more time for recruits to negotiate their deals, time is also running out on deciding who's going to start. I'll be honest with you. I still think there could be a couple of surprise starters when USC and LSU play. I've given you my starters so far, and I'll do it again. In fact, I'll probably do it after I go to the next practice. I'll give you my starting lineup 2.0. I gave you 1.0. I think it was last week on one of the episodes. My everydayers, remind me, which episode did I give you my starting lineup? It might have even been 2 weeks ago. Anyways, I'm going down the rabbit hole. I think there's going to be a surprise starter on offense. And 1 on defense, maybe even 2 on the defense side of the ball. Special teams, it's already getting a shakeup. You don't bring another kicker in out of the transfer portal if you're not intending to start him. Lincoln Riley went and snatched Michael Lance away from Georgia Southern. Said, sorry, Clay, I need your kicker. I know he's probably going to be your leading scorer. I need him for a year. So I think he's getting the starting nod over Dennis Lynch, Tyler Robles, freshman Ryan Sayeri. I don't think I'm giving anything away there. But does the team gain anything if you're trying to force a competition, if they know who's going to be playing and who the guy should be playing? Just throwing it out there. Food for thought, conversation. Is there time left? There's 13 days. We got this week and then next week. And the team's on a plane. They're heading to Las Vegas, Sin City, USC versus LSU. I'll be there. I'll be at practice this week. I'll keep you updated, let you know what's going on. We've got some recruiting news that's supposed to be coming down this week. I think on the 23rd, Nick Brooks, the offensive lineman. I'll let you know if I hear anything before then. I'll have another episode of Locked on USC tomorrow. We're coming at you 5 times a week. Don't forget, you got Locked on College Football. Check them out. They're going to keep you updated, keep you going. Week 0, Saturday. You've got football games this weekend. We're here. We made it. You'll make it till tomorrow, too. So until that next episode, everyone, you know what to do.